Good morning, X Winterview here again for another brief dialogue on my way to work again, because I work every day. So, in the car, once again, audio quality apologies. Also, apologies for long pauses between words sometimes as I think about the oncoming traffic. And second to that, I have a coffee, so I'll be sipping that too. All my caveats aside, today's brief dialogue for my dear friend Anastasia is about realization. What is it? What does it feel like to be realized? To realize one's true self, to become enlightened, and all that crazy stuff. Very popular topic on the interwebs at the moment. A lot of confusion around the issue too. So, as X Winterview has become famous for, in his own mind, to clarify some of the confusion around this, and hopefully, I don't know, fill up 20 minutes with waffle. Okay, gonna have a sip of the old flat white. That's a pretty good flat white. Anyway, on with the show. Enlightenment, liberation, self-realisation. Pretty fancy pants words. What are they talking about? What are they pointing to? Well, if you read the accounts from traditional saints or mystics or people we venerate with their having reached enlightenment, we seem to get a sense that before enlightenment they were just an ordinary kind of guy or gal living a life maybe a little bit miserable, probably, and then one day, perhaps after some kind of effort, endeavor like meditation or reciting a mantra, sitting in a cave, contemplating their navel, taking magic mushrooms or something, or having a near-death experience, that's another good one, they suddenly realize something that no one else seems to have realized. A kind of cosmic aha moment where they realize, as is said at least in many of the writings, their true self, their true nature. And this sounds, to the rest of us, very compelling. You think to yourself, I'd like a bit of that true self-realization, enlightenment thing. Sounds good, because my life is crap, and this sounds great. That kind of thing. Very common thought process around the issue. So, you know, do what most people who are reasonably intelligent do. They try and figure out the technique, the method, the process, if you like. The what do I do to get what you got kind of formula. And then so starts the search for enlightenment. That was another sip. That big pause. So, the common ways that people are told about enlightenment or reaching enlightenment are as follows. You need to meditate, because meditating stills the mind, and people with still minds are probably more likely to be enlightened. Or, even in the meditation itself, it will trigger some kind of recognition. Some people are told, don't do anything, you just forget about it. It'll just happen. So they go around not doing anything about it. But I suspect, secretly hoping something will happen. Some people are told to be passionately, sincerely earnest. And I don't really know what that looks like, not being earnest or sincere myself, but I suspect it looks a little bit like sitting in a sort of semi-awkward position with knees drawn up, with head tilted to the side, eyes, puppy dog eyes looking up earnestly to heaven, waiting for enlightenment to happen, because your earnestness is maxing out at maximum earnestness. And hopefully that'll work. Some people are told you need to devote your heart, or open your heart, or devote yourself to a guru. And they go off and they sit at the feet of a wise-looking person, usually Indian, usually with long hair, usually doesn't say much, usually says a couple of things a year, which no one really understands, yet everyone kind of nods mysteriously as if, wow, that was pretty profound shit. What else? Some people are told, and this is a good one, that you need to be really good, honest. You have to be a nice person, so to speak. You have to do good deeds in the world. You have to not commit any sins and basically be a sort of all-round great guy or gal. And this is a great idea because it really appeals to the sense of getting a reward for being good. And Freud would have a field day with that one. Now, what's another one? Oh yeah, some people decide that they're going to go on sort of spiritual journeys of maybe taking various substances or depriving themselves in some way, or trancing out with drum beats, or what else do people do? Taking mushrooms, sitting at high altitudes, staring, surrendering thoughts, all sorts of crazy stuff. Oh yeah, that's another good one too. The old change your ideas way to enlightenment. What I need to do is change my beliefs about me and the world and this and that and da-da-da, and eventually I will be rewarded with enlightenment. And as you can see, the pattern is fairly clear. Some kind of endeavor will, if you're lucky, I guess, lead to this thing called liberation. However, I don't want to break this to you, but I'm gonna have to, because it's my duty. Nothing causes enlightenment. Nothing creates liberation. Oh no, really? Yes, really. No matter what technique you think you're doing towards it, it will not cause it to happen. But, paradoxically and annoyingly, people that do techniques sometimes claim to be enlightened. So what does that mean? Nothing. It just means that the person was doing a technique and then they became enlightened. The error being, the naive error being, that the technique caused the enlightenment. The truth of the matter is, when I say truth, just hold that concept very lightly. The truth of the matter is, I said it twice, that the story of you, the personal narrative, unfolds automatically. No one does it. No one causes it to unfold. For some people, that personal narrative could include meditation. That personal narrative might include going to the pub every night and drinking a lot of alcohol. It could include being a really nice person, helping little old ladies across the road, etc. It doesn't matter in essence. It doesn't really matter. The story, that type of narrative, is not in anyone's control. It just happens. And when I say it happens, I'm going to say the dreaded word. It only happens apparently. There, I said it. Which means or suggests it might not actually be happening at all. Isn't that annoying? So, life, the experience of life, includes a narrative, a story about me that unfolds automatically without me doing it. The belief, if you like, is that the narrative is real. It refers to something in reality, which further gives the appearance that the things within the story of your life have some kind of agency, some power to do this, to a that. Isn't that crazy? So, for example, let's choose a simple example. The idea of, if I drink 5 pints of beer, I will probably be intoxicated. The belief being that the beer, being a thing with causal power, changes the physiology in the body, that's the nervous system and the brain, to have biochemical changes that result in intoxication. So the neat little story there is the beer caused me to get drunk. Or if you want to expand that out a bit, my foolishness caused me to drink, which caused me to get drunk, and so on and so forth. Realization is the realization that the story, the narrative, if you prefer, is hollow or empty. It appears that that's what's happening. So the narrative itself appears consistent and coherent, logical, it makes sense, it's a good story. But what is not realized before realization is that the narrative is empty, totally empty. Wow, I raised my voice a bit there, must be getting passionate. Passion helps you become enlightened. No, just kidding, ignore that. The narrative form of the world, existence, if you prefer that expression, just happens, and it seems to happen to a person inside the narrative who stuff happens to. It's their life, and they're on their way somewhere, and they'll do something, and they'll become liberated as a result. Unfortunately, the whole endeavor is entirely empty. Entirely empty. This is a very hard thing to describe because the mind will naturally start going, what do you mean empty? Do you mean it's like it has no substance? Yes, it has no substance. It seems to have substance, and that's where it gets tricky, and that's, I think, where people get unstuck. There's this very powerful idea that the world and its experiences, the feeling of temperature on your face and the earth under your feet and the emotions coursing through the body, give this idea that the world is real, that we live in a real world. Unfortunately, it's all smoke and mirrors. It all conspires together to create this artificial sense of reality. Now, you have to be a bit cautious here about saying artificial sense or the world is hollow, because the appearance of the world can be rather unpleasant, such that I would not go stepping in front of a truck and saying to myself, it's only an appearance, it's totally hollow. Oh, I might do that, I don't know, because it happens automatically. But in the appearance of the story, there'll be the appearance and experience of a truck whamming into your body, disintegrating it into a zillion little fleshy morsels and scattering it across the road. That'll be an experience too, empty as it is, nonetheless, probably not a pleasant experience, I would wager. So, liberation, enlightenment, seems to happen to a person, yet it does not. It is the realization that the person is, if anything at all, just a part of the story, just another part of the appearance of life that is empty, totally empty. Some people say, and I think I've said this too, There is no personal self. Now, it doesn't actually matter if you dismantle the personal self, and I did a talk on the whole thing of no self, self and no self. The experience of life can include the experience of being a personal self. It's not a problem. It's actually not a problem. The experience of a personal self is totally normal, and people sometimes get it in their head that they've got to try and get rid of this personal self somehow. Of course, that's impossible. So you might even think, am I just saying you've got to let life happen? No, I'm not saying that at all. Remember, there's no agency. There's no one here who can let life happen. No one at all. It's really annoying. Like, it's really annoying, yeah. It feels like you're trapped. I can't get out. That is getting closer to the truth. You can't get out. There's no escape from the story. It keeps going and going and going. Liberation is an appearance within the story, something that the story calls enlightenment. It doesn't get you out of the story, though. It doesn't make the story go away. That's annoying. It might make elements of the story a little bit less reactive, or make you a little bit less reactive to certain parts of the story. Might even fill you with some pretty blissed out mystical experiences, but they come and go too in the story. You don't sit in a state of blissed out nothingness forever. Some people will have those experiences. I've certainly had my fair share of the blissed out mystical stuff, and I become pretty non-functional. But seeing through the whole thing, realization is that it's just another thing. It's not a big deal. I mean, it's a nice thing, but it's not a big deal. It's just another part of it, because in about 10 minutes I'm going to have to take a piss. And maybe tomorrow I'll lose my wallet. And then maybe I'll have a car accident and lose my leg, and it'll be let's just say it, it'll be shit. Realization is the realization that although it feels real and seems real, it is totally unreal at the same time. So it is both real and unreal. That is what is realized. You can say that you realize there's no self in that moment, but you don't actually have to go down that road. You don't have to go down that road. You can just realize that even the appearance of a self is empty of form. What I'm going to have a little dialogue, well, let's call it a brief dialogue, about is getting into some of the more mystical stuff about consciousness, awareness, awakeness, etc., etc. That's always quite a good dialogue. I like that sort of mystical stuff. But in the meantime, this brief dialogue was just to go over some of the basics about the emptiness of the world. Now, I want to just finish off with this idea of the empty and the full simultaneously. It's really hard to explain, and you can probably sense that I do struggle to convey it with some degree of accuracy. But we know, let's say we look at an object under a microscope, we know that in science that we can keep getting, we can reduce it down and down and down and down, like molecules, atoms, cells, molecules, atoms, down and down, to we sort of end up with nothing, that we can really define. That's not what is being suggested with the emptiness. That is a story that happens in the appearance, the story of looking down. The realization of the emptiness and fullness of the world is outside of the whole scientific ideas that we can have or concepts that we can make up. it's a very funny realization. It's like realizing that the entire world is a dream. That's a pretty good analogy. So, for example, let's say you're asleep at night and you're dreaming, and let's make it a real mundane kind of dream that you have sometimes. Let's say your dream is that you're waking up in the morning, having a shower, brushing your teeth, having your breakfast, putting your work clothes on, getting in your car, driving down the road, getting stuck in traffic. Let's say you're actually dreaming about that at night, which is a really crappy dream because it's going to happen when you wake up as well. So when you wake up after that dream in the morning, you go, oh, it was just a dream. Thank God it was just a dream. But at the time it seemed quite real. You went through the full emotional sort of stuff in the dream, and the dream seemed at the time to have substance. It seemed like it was real. But looking back, it's like, well, it was just a dream. That's what liberation/awakening is like. It's like realizing that the world that you live in the daytime, when you're awake, is the same as a dream. It seems real. You feel the emotions. You have the experiences. You don't control it. No one controls their dream. It just happens. It just happens automatically. It's waking up and realizing that the awake world and the dream world are no different. It's all one and the same. Isn't that amazing? It's mind-blowing. Anyway, I think the coffee's wearing off. That's a problem. But that was what I wanted to finish with, that little idea about the dream. And so in the dream, nothing has substance. Nothing causes anything. Things seem to cause stuff. Yeah, the wind in your dream seems to blow and make the grass wave in the fields in the dream, but when you wake up, you think there was never any wind, there was never any grass in the field. It was just an appearance. And that's what it's like. That's the fact of how it is in your waking reality as well. But you think it's different. You think that this world is real, it has substance, it's different from a dream. It absolutely isn't. It's the same thing. And that's what realization, that's one way you can describe liberation or realization. Waking up and realizing the dreamlikeness, so to speak, of the world. Well, this is X Winterview with a brief dialogue on... I actually can't remember what the subject was now. So long ago. Realization, that's right. I hope you've enjoyed this brief dialogue. Please feel free to like it. Feel free to write comments, criticisms if you want. Keep it nice, don't hurt my feelings. I'm very sensitive. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.